the street, red, white, and blue. People shuffling their feet, people sleeping in their shoes. There's a warning sign on the road ahead. There's a lot of people saying we'd be better off dead. Don't feel like saying it, but I am with them. So I try to forget any way I can. Keep on rocking in the free world. 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 I see a woman in the night with a baby in her hand. There's an old street light near a garbage can. Now she put the kid away and she's gonna dead it. She hates her life and what she's done to it. There's one more kid that will never go to school, never get to fall in love, never get to be cool. Keep on rocking in the free world. 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 We got 1,000 points in light for the homeless man. We got a kind of gentle machine gun hand. We got department stores and toilet paper. Got styrofoam boxes for the ozone layer. Got a man of the people says keep on the light. Got fuel to burn, got roads to drive. Keep on rocking in the free world. 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 We'll keep on rocking in the free world. Keep on rocking in the free world. Keep on rocking in the free world.
Keep on rocking in the free world, everyone. Howdy, this is Jack J Hutchinson, chatting to Will from Two Finger Media. It's great to be here. The first question How am I handling the lockdown? Well, it's been a bit weird actually. We were on tour right up until this all kicked off basically. So we were in the middle of our biggest headline tour to date. We were on the road having an absolute whale of a time, and then all this happened very, very quickly. So we got 10 dates into a 13-date leg of the tour. So we got a chunk of it out of the way, and then we had to make a decision really on in relation to the final gigs on that run. So we pulled the final three, and two of them have been rescheduled to October, which is great. And we're still trying to reschedule the Ellen show, and yeah, it's been a bit crazy. The first week, I always find it really tough coming off tour anyway. I find it very difficult to sort of readjust to everyday life. But then readjusting from being in these really exciting environments where we're putting on a rock and roll show every night. I love hanging around after gigs and chatting to people and having a beer. And that just suddenly stopped very, very quickly. And then I'm in isolation in my flat. So I thought the best thing to do would be to just start writing music. So that's essentially what I've been doing the last 3 weeks. I've written 10 new songs, so I've got enough for a new album. And I've been writing a lot of it with Laz and Felipe from my band via WhatsApp, and we've been doing Zoom meetings and sharing ideas, and it's going pretty well. So better than you'd expect. How was the response to the new songs on the tour? Absolutely incredible. One song in particular really went down well at a lot of the gigs, and that was I Will Follow You, which is a song I wrote for my dad, who was sadly diagnosed with Alzheimer's and vascular dementia about 18 months ago now. And yeah, the song means a lot to me, and so going out and playing it and having people sing it back at me was quite an emotional feeling really. And yeah, it's one of those songs that's quite soft in comparison to the rest of the set, so you always wonder whether it's the point in the gig where people go, should we go to the bar and get a drink? But thankfully people didn't do that. And one of the special memories from the recent tour was in Oxford. We played that song and something happened with my acoustic, and basically it cut out. So I did this long emotional introduction to the track and then hit the first chord, and it was like so thinking on my feet, I just unplugged the guitar and dived into the crowd and played it in the middle of the crowd. And it was one of those off the cuff moments where it was quite emotional really, and kind of terrifying, because when you're on stage you've got this barrier between you and the audience, I guess. And I was in the middle of the crowd playing this very, very soft song, and everybody shut up, and it was really cool. It was one of those great moments. And then after the gig, people were like, you should do that as part of your show. And I was like, nah, it's going to become a contrived thing. So it hasn't become a thing in the show. What I do anyway is I dive in the crowd when I'm playing the big guitar solo in War Pigs. We do a cover of Black Sabbath's War Pigs. So yeah, it's like the antithesis of social distancing. But yeah, that was a really magical moment, and one that it'll stay with me for a long time. So yeah, when we came off the tour, which was obviously quite a sudden thing, we were racking our brains as to how we were going to make money over the next, well, I guess it could be 6 months. So there was a tour that I'd planned for 6 months, done loads of promo. It had been promoted in Classic Rock magazine. It'd been promoted when we played at Planet Rockstock in December. Sales were great for the tickets, and then it was suddenly not happening. So I had to sort of think on my feet. And I guess the 3 days after I came back and I was back in my flat, I didn't really sleep very much. I was up late trying to figure out a way of trying to navigate this new environment and trying to work out a way of still providing music for fans online. And I came up with this idea of doing this Bootleg Series. And the idea behind that was I'm a massive Neil Young fan, and he does this performance series run of shows which are basically archive gigs, and he's put out an absolute ton of these shows, and they're all great. I love the variety in them. There's a mix of acoustic stuff, mix of the full band Crazy Horse stuff. So I thought, why don't we just do the same? So we fortunately recorded a few of the shows on the Who Feeds the Wolf tour. So we've already put out the first one, which was Bedford Esquires, which I thought was a great gig. We weren't planning on recording that one, but the sound guy Derek was like, well, we might as well just get it down on tape. And I think probably because we weren't planning it, it turned into quite a special show. And the previous night's gig was in Gravesend at Leo's Red Lion, and we'd planned to record that for a live album. So we've got that, and that will be the next edition. And then we're going to put out a acoustic record, which is going to be a mix of stuff from Who Feeds the Wolf, Paint No Fiction, and a few covers. So I've been doing this call out on socials, seeing what covers people want me to do. So I'm going to record some weird stuff, and there'll probably be some Neil Young, Black Crowes, maybe some Sabbath. Somebody wants Led Zeppelin, Rain Song. Let's see if we could do Rain Song. But yeah, it should be really interesting doing it that way. So I'm looking forward to it, and that's one way of making money. And I was quite keen that I offer a way of providing music for people that didn't force people to pay. And it's really tricky because I know there's a lot of musicians are trying to navigate this new landscape, and it's all about how do they survive, how do you pay your rent. So I set up the Bootleg Series as a way of making some cash, and the online shows which I'm doing are essentially plugging the Bootleg Series. They're still plugging Who Feeds the Wolf and my recent record with Earache Records, New Wave of Rock and Roll. But if people want to contribute, they can buy the Bootleg album in the same way I would be promoting shows, promoting at real life shows. And it seems to be going all right. People can buy a virtual pass to the gigs as well, which is only a tenner. So if they want to contribute, they can put a tenner in my pocket. And if they don't, if they're skint, they can hopefully have a good evening, relax and watch some good music. So in terms of the new music that we've been working on, I think a lot of it has been in response to what's happened. I mean, it's quite a difficult moment, isn't it, for a lot of people, and totally unexpected. And thankfully, we're in a position where technology allows us to still stay connected with people. So I've been on the phone, WhatsApping, Zooming. A lot of my family members. I've probably spoken to some of my family members more in the last 3 weeks than I have in years. So that's been quite cool. And in the same way, it's provided me with a situation where Felipe can send me drum parts. He's been drumming, videoing himself playing drums, recording his drums, and sending me ideas. Laz has he's been recording a lot of stuff, sending me loads of riffs. Basically, Laz's riffs all sound like they should be on Black Sabbath albums, which is good by me, you know. And I've been sending them quite a lot of different ideas, and it's been really cool. We planned to do a Led Zeppelin 3, and the original plan was to take some time off in August and rent a cottage, write some new material, and then head into the studio at the end of August with this brand new album that we'd recorded together. And essentially, we've just had to move that forward, and we've done it and done it remotely. So I'm really pleased with this stuff that we've written, and we've co-written material which I'd not done. The previous album, Who Feeds the Wolf, is all my stuff, and those guys essentially acted more like session players with that. I told them what bass lines to play, what drum parts to play, and then they kind of didn't pay attention and played some better stuff than I probably would have suggested. Whereas this album, the next one, is going to be more of a collaborative effort, and I think that's a really important shift for me in terms of my trajectory as an artist, and it's been really cool. And it's a bit weird. I've never had anybody say no. So I sent a riff through to Laz last week, and he just sent me a text back and said, "Can do better." Brutal assessment, Laz. That's true. I could do better. And then I was quite annoyed, so I came up with this fucking awesome riff. So yeah, there you go. So it's going to be a good record, I reckon. I do get asked a lot whether I'm still a blues artist, and it's a bit of a weird question, I think, because I do play a bit of blues, and I think a lot of my music is blues infused. But in the same way, you could probably say that some of Sabbath's riffs have got kind of blues elements in them. And I very much doubt that Tony Iommi gets asked that question. And, you know, Slash is one of my favourite players. He's a really bluesy player, but it's heavy rock, isn't it, that he plays? And so I think that there's always going to be a blues element to the way that I write songs, and I think that my formal sort of training in this was essentially playing live shows, and I did 4 years of playing at Ain't Nothing But Blues Bar in central London, and that's like playing down at some old juke joint. I mean, it's great. It's you and the audience are like several feet away, and you know you need to have rapport with the audience. It's not just about hitting them hard with some music. You need to come up with quick responses when you get hecklers and people that are a bit drunk. There's a lot of people drunk when they're at those sorts of shows. So I think I've taken that element into the bigger live shows that we do now with the full band, and I hope that there's a good rapport between me and the audience. And one thing that I always say about blues music is it's about feeling, it's about life, and I think that there's a realness to somebody. When you listen to Muddy Waters is one of my favourite blues musicians. Magic Sam, Elmore James, these guys have got a real honesty in their music, and I think that I carry that into the stuff that I write. And it's weird because I listen to a lot of music that is probably classed as blues now, and I think that ain't blues. But who am I to say whether it's blues or not? For me, it's about just having good songs, and I don't really focus on the genre. You know, I wrote a song last week that probably sounds like it should be on. It's got the same vibe as like Rumours by Fleetwood Mac. It's very poppy, but I wouldn't discard it and say, well, it's not blues, I ain't going to play that. I just think it's about having good songs, and the musicians that I've always been drawn to, it's not been about playing flash guitar necessarily, it's been about whether they can write some damn good songs and have good choruses that people remember. And I think when I approach songwriting, I want every element to be memorable, whether it be the opening riff, the middle eight, the guitar solo. You've got to remember it. I grew up listening to the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. They got some actual songs, and sometimes I feel that's a little bit missing with artists that I see on the scene at the moment. It's the truth. My favourite subject, guitars. So yeah, I've recently acquired a new guitar, which is a Zakk Wylde Wild Audio Viking V guitar, and I've used this on the recent tour, and it's just basically a bit of a heavy duty beast, and I was looking for a touring guitar that I could sort of rely on, that could take essentially a lot of shit, because I play the guitar pretty heavily. If anyone's seen me live, I use pretty heavy gauge strings. I like to basically smack it to pieces when I'm playing, and I needed a guitar that was going to be able to put up with that. And I've played Les Pauls for years. I've got a Gibson Les Paul Standard that I use for recording, and I've got this Les Paul Studio that I essentially use for live shows, and that's the one that's been to, Spain, Czech Republic, Germany, all these. When I've gigged abroad, it's one that is like my touring rig. So yeah, I bought this guitar essentially to replace that. So I've got the Les Paul as a spare, and I use this for most of the shows. It's got these EMG pickups, which you can probably see there, which are really powerful, high output pickups. So it just gives me a bit more of a driven sound, which is what I was looking for. And it stays in tune when I'm giving it what for on stage. And it looks great in photos as well, and matches my hat. So what more can you ask for? And in terms of rig, I go into a Marshall DSL, and I've used Marshall DSLs for 20 years. I've got a JCM 2000 stack that I use mainly for recording, which is what you'll hear on Who Feeds the Wolf, Paint No Fiction, and I use a slightly smaller combo live, basically for ease of carting it around. That's what I've been using on the recent tour, but it also means I can crank it up. It's a 40 watt combo, whereas the JSM 2000 is 100 watts, so you've really got to have it driven at quite a high volume to get a cracking sound out of it. So when we do festivals, I'll use the stack. So if you see footage of me at Ramblin' Man, you'll see the Marshall JCM 2000 stack, and then slightly smaller club gigs, it will be the 40-watt combo. But yeah, Viking V, Marshall, it's the way to go. So the songwriting process is a really interesting one for me, because I consider myself a songwriter. If people ask me what I am, I'm obviously a guitarist, I'm obviously a vocalist, but I see myself as a songwriter above everything else. And so the songwriting process for me is the most crucial element of everything that I do. And I churn out a lot of songs, and I've provided songs for other people. You may not know this, but I've written songs for other people. And then I save all the best ones for myself. Well, kind of. But yeah, I tend to write songs everywhere. There's no set process to it. I write a lot of songs traveling. I find like movement somehow infuses songwriting. And I've written a lot of songs over the last couple of years, primarily because I've been on tour. They've been in hotel rooms. So, when you play a show and you go back to your hotel room and it's like midnight, and then you got some time to kill to wind down, I might just noodle away on my guitar, and then it comes up with different ideas, and then I present them to the band in sound checks and that sort of stuff, and we kind of take it from there. I write a lot on my acoustic in terms of working on the melodies for songs. So songs like Justified, which is on the new wave of rock and roll album for Earache, I wrote that song. The riff, I remember that riff. I was walking through Hampstead Heath in London, and the riff sort of came in my head, and I got my iPhone out and sort of sang it into my iPhone. So the opening riff and the vocal line for the verse was written just wandering around Hampstead Heath. Then I got in my head, it's this massive sort of sound, but then I wrote it on my acoustic in terms of the bridge bit, which for me was a bit of a nod to 10 Years Gone by Zeppelin, actually, that tune. So sometimes, there's influences on songs that you don't intentionally draw out. You wouldn't sit there and go, I'm gonna write a song that sounds like 10 Years Gone, but it probably just pops out. And and then the chorus part, we were trying to work out where the chorus part came from. And it actually, I was watching, and this isn't going to sound quite as cool as you might want it to be, but I was watching The Hobbit recently, and right at the end of the third Hobbit film, one of the dwarves blows a horn, and it basically does that riff. So check that out, because that's kind of, I guess, where the Justified thing came into my head. So ideas come from anywhere, really, and the softer stuff, I Will Follow You, which was one of the most successful songs off the new album. I remember writing that, and I was watching the football. I was sat there watching Spurs in the Champions League. I'm not a Spurs fan, so it clearly wasn't entertaining me that much, and just sort of noodling away. And it was just there, and I kind of hummed a melody and wrote it. That song took about 20 minutes to write, and it's one of my best songs. It's weird. Justified took about 8 months to finish, because it had originally a different chorus, and when we recorded that actually in the studio, and I remember telling Laz and Felipe that we were scrapping this recording that we'd spent ages on, and it sounded great, but it didn't have as good a chorus, and every song has got to have a great chorus, I think. So yeah, songwriting process is interesting. Somebody said to me the other week about, does pain help write music? And I've written a lot of songs in the past when I've been heartbroken, when I've broken up with people, and obviously I wrote I Will Follow You about my dad, which is very sad. But actually, looking back, I think a lot of songs that I was writing 8 or 9 years ago were about things that in the grander scheme of things don't really matter. Whereas I think now I'm writing about life in a more authentic way. And somebody said that Who Feeds the Wolf was my most mature record. I don't really know what that means, but I guess it is. It's more mature. I'm dealing with life in a different way to when I was writing songs when I was 18, 19, which were basically all about girls. And yeah, I think the more you soak up life, the more interesting things you've got to write about. You know, I wrote a brand new song which we played on the tour called World on Fire that I wrote in Brazil, and we just played a festival to 5,000 people, and that can't be anything but inspiring. You know, we came off stage there, and I was thinking about the next album, and you think about, I want to write songs that deliver for those large audiences. So I think perhaps as the audiences have grown as well, that has influenced the songwriting. You need big choruses. Sleep Awake Obey on the new album has this massive chorus that there isn't a better feeling than when we play that live and people are singing along with it. It's incredible. So yeah, lots of different things occur to you when you're songwriting. Over the last couple of weeks whilst I've been in lockdown, I've been doing various calls out on social media, seeing what songs people wanted me to play in these intimate online shows. And so a few people have requested some of my older stuff, which I've not played in a really long time. And I had a request for this song called Find Someone, which was actually the very first song I ever recorded. I did it on my iPad, actually, when I was on holiday in Italy. And I put it out as a single. And it's very different to the stuff that I'm probably known for now, which is the more heavy stuff. But this is a very, it's almost Tom Petty-esque, I guess, this tune. So I'm going to give it a bash. I've not played this in a very long time. And it goes a little bit like this.
Castaway floating, searching for where I belong, calling out just your name. Tumbling down, scratching, lost in a haze of someone never could be the same. You never knew me, did you know yourself? Why won't you listen now? You never knew me, now I don't know myself. Go on and find someone. Find someone. want someone.
There you go. In terms of the main influences on my music, I reckon the biggest band for me over the years has been Led Zeppelin, and I've listened to them and been inspired by them more than any other band, I guess. In terms of guitar players, Slash was really important when I was a teenager. I got into his music, and Zakk Wylde as well. I think a lot of people say they can hear Zakk Wylde in my music. I own a Zakk Wylde guitar. I met Zakk Wylde recently. He's an absolute dude, and he signed my wah wah pedal. So when we're back on the road and you look at my pedal board, you will see a signed Zakk Wylde pedal board. But yeah, it's weird. There's lots of different influences. I really like Nick Drake, and so Nick Drake's influenced a lot of the acoustic side of my music. John Martin as well, fantastic stuff. That I've been into country music over the years. I went through a period where I was trying to dress like Graham Parsons. It was not quite as cool a look, but you know, Flying Burrito Brothers were really important when I was in my 20s. I really got into the melodic side of that, and I think that's probably something that you can hear in songs like Hey 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 off the Boom Boom Brotherhood album. Yeah, somebody said recently that they could hear Oasis in my music, which I guess is probably to do with the choruses. I like big melodic choruses. I grew up in Burnley as well. It's not that far away from Manchester, and Oasis were a massive band at the period when I was a teenager, so I probably seeped in. Rolling Stones, they're, Exile on Main Street. It's up there with Physical Graffiti for my favourite record. So yeah, a whole host of different influences. So guitar rigs, we covered. Pedal board stuff, I have a relatively simple setup, I guess, in terms of my pedal board. I have a variety of pedals on there that essentially I don't use that much live. So I have a flanger and a phaser that I knock on a bit in Wake Up when we're doing the sort of psychedelic bit in the middle. But I've got a Boss equalizer pedal that I've had for 20 years that I use as a booster for solos. I've got a Zakk Wylde overdrive pedal that I use on the solos, certain solos. Crybaby wah wah pedal, and a fantastic pedal that I've used a lot over the last couple of years is a Mad Professor delay pedal that I got in touch with them actually after I saw Mark Ford from the Black Crowes using one. So they were wonderful about offering me an endorsement. So great company. They've given me several of those. The first one broke because I hit it too hard on a stage, but they are robust. The second one has lasted a long time. So yeah, check out Mad Professor pedals as well. Favourite stage to play throughout my career? There's been, I guess, a series of gigs that really stand out for various reasons. One was playing Ramblin' Man. Played the blues stage at Ramblin' Man a few years ago. It was a bit weird playing Ramblin' Man in many ways because it was almost like too soon. I feel like I played it with my old band, the Boom Boom Brotherhood, and the experience was fantastic, and I met a lot of people through doing that show. But I think, yeah, it was perhaps a little bit too soon for me. I'd like to go back and play again and, deliver a different type of performance. I guess the number one gig for me was the Brazil gig, where we headlined this festival that was about 8,000 people at the festival. We played to about 5,000 people. And I remember walking onto that stage and turning around and looking at Felipe and being like, just this sea of people. And that day was incredible. I remember getting out of the tour bus and this group of lads were stood there and they were just shouting Justified at me, and I was like, I'm in Brazil, how the hell do they know this song? They knew Boom, like these tracks that I'm a million miles away from home, and these people were just so into it, and it was just such an incredible day. And it felt like I'd been plugging away for 5 years at this, and that felt like justification on all the time I'd spent doing all this hard work to get to that point. But there's other gigs as well that really do stick out. And I've had some incredible nights playing Ain't Nothing But in London, and I've got a lot of friends who I've met through that place. Obviously a more intimate environment, and yeah, it's weird. And then obviously the the launch of Who Feeds the Wolf at the Black Art in London last year felt like an incredible achievement. You know, you work on an album for 18 months and then launching it, playing most of it live that night was really special. And then recently, a couple of weeks back, playing the new wave of rock and roll launch for Earache at Islington O2, that was really special as well. Great lineup of bands, and it was good to have a few beers with them afterwards and celebrate what I think is a fantastic album. Who would be my ultimate stage partner? Ooh. So is this going to be like Alive or Dead, anybody? Well, obviously my ideal band would be Laz and Felipe. I got your back, guys. Don't worry about it, man. It's difficult because with guitar, all my heroes would absolutely blow me off the stage. So I don't know whether I'd invite them. So I'd, probably tell security to not allow Zach Wild in. Bass players, John Paul Jones, just incredible. Also, you could also fill in on keys, so you're saving yourself paying for a keyboard player. Drums. Well, Bonham is obviously really important. I think I would probably write a lot of songs with his drumming style in mind. But one of my favourite drummers is Steve Gorman from the Black Crowes, I think, and I've met Steve. He's an incredibly lovely guy and killer drummer. And if you want to hear how good he is, listen to the Black Crowes live at the Greek with Jimmy Page. Some of the drumming on that is absolutely phenomenal. And yeah, top guy as well. Unfortunately, supports Arsenal, I believe, and I'm a Man United fan, so that might cause some tension on the tour bus. But yeah, crucially as well, any band needs their merch guy, so Johnny Della would have to be there as well. I don't think there's a better merch guy than Johnny. He essentially helped pay for my new Zach Wild guitar because we sold so much stuff at Planet Rock stock in December. I think I bought that whilst we were in the porter cabin accommodation afterwards. My girlfriend was obviously well pleased about that. Is there one particular song from another artist that just resonates with your soul every time you hear it? There's different songs, I guess, that hit me in different ways. So one of my favourite songs is You Could Be Mine by Guns N' Roses, and I play along with that a lot. I play along with it as a warm-up for shows, actually. And that's because it reminds me, and this is going to sound bit weird, but it reminds me of watching Terminator 2 when I was about 9, and my mum, I think I duped my mum into renting it from Blockbuster Video in Burnley, and that song's in that film, and it probably just reminds me of the safety of being a 9-year-old and watching that on a Sunday morning. But then, like, songs that really mean something to me tend to be the ones that mark time. So songs like 10 Years Gone, I remember listening to that track when I was a teenager, and I was completely besotted in love with this girl that was at my school, and I was writing songs about her. I never plucked up the courage to tell her that I really liked her, and wrote some damn good songs about her, actually. But that song, actually, I remember listening to that song repeatedly because it sort of felt like, well, not necessarily the lyrics, but the emotion in it summed up how I was feeling. A lot of Neil Young stuff. I've been listening to a lot of Neil Young whilst I've been in lockdown, because I think it's emotional music that acts as a marker for a lot of happy memories for me over the years, and I've probably listened to Neil Young more than any other artist. Because there's such a wide variety of tracks that he's recorded. So yeah, I was listening to Neil Young's performance series this morning, just whilst having a coffee, and it's just great. And yeah, love a bit of Neil. Okay, some quick fire fun questions. Tea or coffee? Coffee. Cappuccino. Beer or whiskey? You can have both, can't you? Car or motorcycle? Well, I do like Sons of Anarchy, but I don't think I would dare actually ride a motorcycle. Maybe one day, but I do like cars as well, so I stick with a car. You can't get a Marshall stack to a gig on a motorcycle anyway. Hat or no hat? I don't even need to answer that question, do I? What's the first thing you'll be doing when the lockdown ends and you're allowed to go out again and places reopen? Well, I'll tell you what, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drive to Loughborough and I'm going to see me mum and give her a hug. And then I'm going to go and see my dad in the home and give him a hug. And in terms of like other stuff, I will probably just want to go to the pub with Lars, Felipe, all my mates, and get absolutely smashed. It's going to be quite special, and we'll get there. It's just one of those things, isn't it? We're all having to deal with this horrific moment at this time, and hopefully this sort of stuff, all this online content, is helping people get through it. And yeah, I'm having a blast performing for people online. And one thing I will say is that we're about to announce the rescheduled dates in with a lot of dates that had already been organised. We might just add some more of these online shows to future tours because I think they're a great way of connecting with people. So I think you will see a change in the landscape of the way that artists actually perform. You know, we could do 10 dates and we could do 5 of them as online shows. We'll see about that. But anyway, it's been lovely talking to you. Keep on rocking, everyone. Take it easy.